Hey there, everyone! Today we're taking a look at Final Fantasy X. That's something I never thought I'd say. So this is the Final Fantasy X/X2 HD Remaster. It actually came out on Steam not long ago. This is an interesting one. This was a game, Final Fantasy X, came out in 2001, very late 2001, on PS2. Some people consider it a 2002 release because I think it was like December, like late December of '01 that it actually came out, so yeah. And later on, X-2 was released, and it was actually the first time that a mainline Final Fantasy game actually had a direct sequel. Because, for those of you who don't know, the Final Fantasy games, none of them are necessarily in the same universe, really, or have the same characters. They're all generally self-contained stories. But then, lots of things happened and more were made, but X was considered an extremely good game. Whether or not you actually like the characters of the story, that's very subjective, of course, but many people consider X to be one of the best PS2 games ever made. And, this was such a pervasive belief that eventually they decided to remaster Final Fantasy X and X-2 and actually re-release it on the PlayStation 3. And it was very popular, so much so that they remastered that version, made it a little better, and put it on the PlayStation 4. That's how popular this game was. And they decided just recently to actually put a version on Steam as well. And the Steam version is based off of the PS4 version, luckily enough. And it actually even has a couple of extra features. So I guess let's start with what is Final Fantasy X. Well, it's a JRPG, obviously. It is the first of the mainline Final Fantasy games to have voice acting, which, depending on what you think of Final Fantasy voice acting, is either very good or very bad. It is also quite a long game if you want to do everything. I'm 40 hours in right now on this one, and I'm at the end of the game, you could say, but that's only the end of the main sort of storyline. There's still a lot more I have to do. Still have to get a bunch of the ultimate weapons powered up. I still need to do a bunch of other stuff, side quests, etc., etc. You know how Final Fantasy is. And really, I think a lot of the consternation, I guess, surrounding this game came down to the characters, whether or not you actually like the characters, because Final Fantasy has always been heavily based on the story and the characters and the development of the characters and what you think of them. But, not every character is likable, and Final Fantasy has always been very hit and miss with its characters. I actually, when this first came out, I played the crap out of it on PS2. I was fairly young at the time. Gosh, how old was I in 2001? I was 9. But, it was quite the thing, and I really enjoyed it. But now that I've actually been able to play through it again, now that I'm older, let's actually go to the Omega Ruins. The characters have grown on me a lot more. I used to really not like Tidus very much. I thought he was massively annoying. But now I've actually kind of
700 years ago,
gotten a little more, I guess, interested in different parts of the story. So that's obviously going to be very subjective, whether or not you actually, like. The story is going to heavily influence how much you actually enjoy the game, most likely. I'm the kind of person that, even if I don't like a story that much, if the game is very mechanically sound, I can still enjoy the game. But I know that not a lot of people are like that. Oh, wait, I should equip, actually, good stuff. Mostly I'm just going to be walking around fighting stuff and telling you about this version of the game and if it's worth it. I don't have his Calibulk powered up yet, because I don't want to, do a bunch of story stuff and spoil all that, or go through a bunch of cutscenes in the background, because that wouldn't really make for very good watching. And I also don't really want to just have all that stuff going on in the background constantly with me talking over it, because, again, that doesn't really make for particularly great video content. So I'm just going to be walking around with some battles in the background that you can watch and enjoy, hopefully, and telling you about what's different about this version. So in a JRPG, of course, you can walk around and go to different places, battle some dudes like this, I don't remember how powerful things are here. Am I gonna just get, like, murdered terribly? Doesn't look like it. And it has a turn-based battle system. Final Fantasy X actually uses a turn-based battle system a little different than you may be used to because, as you can see, the enemies aren't actually moving, even if I sit here. Most Final Fantasies use this turn-based system, but it's an ATB, active turn-based system, which means that even when you're selecting your character's moves, the enemies will still attack you and things while you're going around in the menus. That doesn't happen in 10. It's one of the only mainline games in the series that's actually the case without changing some options around. That's an interesting way to do it. That does mean that this is a really good entry point in the series. If you've never actually played a Final Fantasy before, this one is a really good one to start with, because it has a pretty good story, actually. It's got a lot of stuff to do. It's a really well-made game mechanically. It's very mechanically sound. I'm going to just use this to restore her health there. And what that means is it's not as hectic in battle because you have a lot more time to mess around with your options and things because not everything is going as quickly. You can, go through your battles, you can level up your characters, and you can, go to the sphere grid and have a massive aneurysm and be very confused and think, you know what, maybe leveling up isn't all that important, who needs that shit? But okay, actually no, the sphere grid is not that complicated, it just looks a little intimidating at first. It's actually pretty easy to understand. It's just, if you ever played Path of Exile, it's kind of like that. The sphere grid, okay, so I should probably explain this for people who don't know. Just about every Final Fantasy has a different method of progressing your characters, a different level up system. Final Fantasy X was the sphere grid, and it is this gigantic web of nonsense that is... every character you can have in your party starts in a different spot on this enormous grid. And instead of levels, as you notice here, if I go back to this, no one has a level. It doesn't say, like, you're level 80, which is different, because almost every Final Fantasy has a level. In this case, you see that thing that says S level, that's sphere level. You gain those in battle by just doing battles. You get AP instead of experience. And, unlike normal levels that you actually permanently accumulate, in Final Fantasy X, you actually spend these levels on the grid to move. When you move one of these spaces, they're called nodes, you can move any direction you want, and one level moves you one node. However, you can see every character has a different color, and it shows where they've been. You can move, it's meant to make backtracking easier and less annoying. You can move 4 spaces that you've already been for every one level. So either one space that you've never been before, or 4 that you have per level. And then you use these various spheres that you get as loot, or buy, or find as treasure and things like that, to interact with the grid in some way. And you can interact with any adjacent nodes. So for Tidus here, he's right here at this particular node. So he can use the one he's on. He can also use this one and this one, because those are the 3 that he's sort of touching, you could say. And that's how every character works on the grid. So this one I would use a power sphere for. That is an HP node, so I would use that, and it would increase my max HP by 200 points permanently. I would use, that's another power, right? Yeah, I would use another power sphere to activate this, which increases his defense by 3 points, etc., etc. This is your character progression system. It looks more complicated than it is. It's really not all that complex. It's actually kind of interesting because it allows a significant amount of customization for your characters, more so than is actually normal for Final Fantasies. Generally speaking, when a character levels up in Final Fantasy, they get a preset amount of stats, and that's it. So, if a character is a certain class, like a thief, for instance, when they level up, they're probably going to get not a lot of HP, they're going to get a lot of speed or accuracy or something like that, a lot of evasion, and not a lot of attack or defensive stats, things like that. In this case, because you actually choose where they go and what nodes they activate, you very much decide what every character gets. And you can see here, you can look at everyone's stats. and all the abilities they have. Everyone can learn everything, despite their class. Everyone technically has a sort of a job in this game, like Orin here is a samurai, Riku is a thief, Yuna is a white mage and a summoner, it's a little confusing, Lulu is a black mage, but that doesn't actually restrict what they can do. Everyone can learn absolutely everything. If you have enough time and spheres and levels and patience, you can take every person through every single node on this grid if you want to do. You'd have to be some sort of crazy masochist, but you could do that. And there are, in fact, items meant to do that, like, say, this right here, this black magic sphere. This allows anyone who uses it to learn any black magic that someone else has already learned. So in other words, if I want someone else that happens to have a high magic stat to also learn some other magic, then I can use that on them, and they can learn magic, despite the fact that maybe they're not actually a black mage. That doesn't technically matter. So this is a pretty elegant level up system, despite its kind of clunky look, that allows for a significant amount of customization for your characters. And this is one of the changes to the HD version. So let's talk about what's different in the HD version. First of all, it looks better. The texture quality has been enhanced across the board. All of the textures are a little bit... Oh god, Tonberry. All the textures are a little bit better. All of the kind of... no, not karma. The models, character models, enemy models, have a higher texture quality. They all just look slightly better.
Check this out.
I wouldn't even say slightly better, actually, because if you look at this, this actually looks fairly modern. And of course it did come out in 2001, you have to remember. It does not look like a 2001 game anymore. Yes, it looks aged, definitely. It doesn't look like a brand new game. But you have to admit that the quality of the environment textures and the... enemy models and character models actually look pretty good for a game that is, 15 years old now. They've done a pretty good job of remastering the actual look of the game. Now, another thing that is actually different about this is something that we didn't get in North America. You see, originally, when this game came out, it very much depends on where you were in the world, what you actually got. What I mean by that is, this game was released in a couple of versions. And the international version, which was the version that everyone not in America got, was actually a bit different than what we had in North America. So the HD remix is actually based on the international version. So if you've only ever played the North American original version of Final Fantasy X, then this actually has a bit of extra content that you've never seen before. For instance, the sphere grid is a bit different. The standard sphere grid has some other layouts. It's laid out differently than the original one was back in 2001. Characters pretty much start in the same places, but the nodes are a bit different. It has more nodes. It has more empty nodes for extra customization, and it's just overall a different look. And also there is what's called the expert sphere grid that you can select when you first start the game. You can't go back and forth. Of course, once you've actually begun a game with one of the two sphere grids, you can't change your selection. But you can very much choose one or the other once you begin, and the expert sphere grid is actually significantly different. Everyone kind of starts in the middle-ish, and is kind of branches outward, and it's actually a smaller grid in general, and it has like 70 less nodes total, and it's laid out a lot differently, so that gives someone who's actually played this game already a pretty different experience. It's gonna be Chef's Knife, isn't he, and kill us all. And actually, I like that. That's kind of cool. Those things are brutal. And another thing that's different, there are some new abilities in this version. 40,000 AP, damn. And so you have things like Pilfer Gill and another Stealing Gill ability for Riku on her section of the sphere grid that are new. You have the Extract abilities, Extract Mana, Extract HP, extract speed, those are to make the sphere grid easier to use. They force enemies to drop certain types of spheres, essentially, so that you can kind of metagame what kind of spheres you need for the grid. That's what they're for. You have, let's see, new bosses as well. There are a significant number of new optional super bosses in this game. In the excuse me, sorry. In the international version that were not in the original, that North American players had access to, such as all the Dark Aeons. The Aeons are the summons in the game, and there is a dark version of all of them. These were not in the original release of the game in North America. They are very hard. Oh my god, they're really difficult bosses, but you can fight them for really good rewards, and they're very fun fights. They're here in this version now, and just to put it in perspective, the easiest of them has like 800,000 HP and is a giant pain to fight, and the most difficult of them has about 8 million HP and will kill the crap out of you. But they are significantly challenging fights. There's also the, let's see, what else do we have? Oh yes, the optional super boss Penance. That's new to the international version that we didn't get originally. Penance is the most difficult encounter in the game. You have to beat all of the Dark Aeons to actually fight Penance, and you get quite the fight out of him. He is an extremely challenging boss that is really just evil, but a very fun fight nonetheless. Think, you know, Emerald Weapon or Ruby Weapon from Final Fantasy VII, that kind of difficulty. Very challenging boss. You've got, let's see, some other changes to the way that some of the Aeons work, your summons. The actual overdrives, the limit breaks for summons work differently. For instance, Delta Attack, which is the overdrive for the Mega Sister summon, used to only hit once. It now hits 3 times, I believe. And Anima's overdrive, Oblivion, used to hit once. It is now one of the most powerful attacks in the game because it hits 16 separate times. And also Yojimbo, the summon that you have to pay to get you to do things for you, his the actual math behind all of his various relationship kind of with you and how you have to pay him, the equations behind all of that have been altered in the international version. It's easier to keep him kind of pleased now, to where he'll use his more powerful attacks more often, including Zanmato, which is, he's kind of like Odin. He has an attack that will instantly kill anything in the game. But it is difficult to get him to use it sometimes, but in the international version, which is again what this is based off of, it is easier to get him to use that than in other versions. So yeah, the international version is a good thing, and although that isn't new exactly, because, you know, it's been available since this game came out, it was not available in North America. So it's nice to have an official way to actually get that in the North American region now that we have an actual, like, HD release. And also, although I'm not showing that in this video because I think I only really need to show one of them, you kind of get the idea, this package does also come with 10-2. I actually like 10-2. Admittedly, the story is pretty bad most of the time. It's not great, but 10-2 is a pretty good game mechanically. It's pretty fun for me because I like the battle system, but the story is definitely lacking. It's got its moments, but it's not, you know, fantastic, we'll say. But it does come with 10-2 as well. So 10-2 has similar improvements. It has similarly increased texture quality and better character and enemy models. It is also the international version, just like this is. And the international version of 10-2 also comes with extra, content, like optional bosses. It comes with extra dress spheres. It comes with like a festival goer one, a psychic one, this one that can like tame enemies as like pets, I think. It comes with extra content. So really you're getting a pretty good package here, in my opinion, because what you're actually getting is 2 games and one kind of small game, because it also comes with a movie, you could say, that is set in between 10 and 10-2 that shows you why Yuna goes on the journey of 10-2. And it also comes with a kind of mini game-ish thingy called 10-2 Last Mission, I believe it is. That's like a, I don't know, it's like a strange spin-off of 10-2. It's kind of hard to explain, but it comes with that as well. So you're actually getting a fairly significant, I should save again. You're actually getting a fairly significant amount of content here. And this is $30. $30 is not actually a lot of money for this, because you're talking about 100 hours of content for each game, possibly. If you enjoy them, of course. And that's going to be very much up to you, whether you enjoy them or not.
Hey, I've got just the thing.
But they are very well mechanically made JRPGs. If you like JRPGs, these are excellent ones to actually play. If you don't know much about JRPGs, these are very good places to start. However, if you don't like the story and are not the kind of person that can really necessarily, like, excuse characters or a story that you don't like in exchange for gameplay that you do enjoy, then maybe this isn't the best possible. This place is more difficult than I remember. Then maybe this isn't the best possible package for you. But still, $30 for 2 games equaling, you know, about 100 hours of content each is pretty great, actually. And I would have to recommend it myself because I'm a pretty big fan of both of these games, despite their problems they do have. And like I said, now that I'm older, after replaying Final Fantasy X and kind of getting reacquainted with the story and the characters, I'm finding myself more enthralled than I was before and liking it more than I did. Well, shit. Glad I saved. But really, it is, the Omega Ruins is an optional dungeon, by the way, with an optional boss, the Omega Weapon, which is quite a difficult area that I might not be leveled up enough for yet, but I just decided to go here to show you a good number of, like, fairly challenging battles for you to see. So yeah, might as well show you some summons while I'm here. I would have to say that just due to the amount of stuff that's actually available here, the amount of content in general, it's difficult to say no to this. And also, I'll link you to the Green Man Gaming page as well in the description that will allow you to get this for possibly even cheaper, if you're interested in that. And by the way, yes, Green Man Gaming is not like places like G2A or anything, which have a, we'll say, questionable kind of policy with how they get their keys. That's actually not the mix that I meant to make. But yeah, it's pretty great. And they do still hold up gameplay-wise to this day, if you enjoy JRPGs, of course. They hold up very well to this day. And they are, I would say, some of the best of the Final Fantasies, if you can get into the characters and things. But of course, 10-2 has its own set of problems I'm not even going to go into right now, but you do get it, essentially, I mean, you could kind of say that you get it for free if you're just getting this for 10, because for that price, getting 10 essentially for $30, a remastered version of 10, really isn't too bad. They're Berserk, great. But essentially, I think it's a really good package, and I think that it is worthy of the price that they're asking, especially because if you've never played the international version, because you were a North American consumer, they're all Berserk and I can't control them, this is not good. You have never experienced a good portion of the content on offer here, and it's worth experiencing. So, yeah, this is the Final Fantasy X/10-2 HD Remaster. I will say that this does run at 30 frames per second because the original did. And I think, although I am very much I'm gonna lose again here because I can't control any of them to cure them. Damn. Because the original ran at 30 because it was an old PS2 game. But I think, although I am, always an advocate for 60 plus FPS in pretty much any game, the actual boost that you would gain from 60 FPS in a turn-based JRPG is fairly small. It's there, but it's fairly small. Which means to me that the actual amount of work that it would take for them to redo everything, and actually, I mean, they would have to probably rejig the entire engine. This is a remaster, not a remake. They would have to redo a lot of things to get a fairly negligible effect, I think. So this is one time where I'm actually going to let them off for having it still run at 30, because again, this is a remaster of a 15-year-old game. I think it's acceptable in this case. But yeah, I am actually pretty pleased with the purchase, and I think that if you were a fan of this game back in the day, you will be too, because it is as good as you likely remember. And if you've never played this game, this is the best opportunity that you could possibly have to give it a shot. Because it is as good as it's actually ever been, really. It looks pretty fantastic for a decade-and-a-half old game. It plays very well if you enjoy JRPGs, and it's sufficiently challenging, and I would say the story still holds up if you can get into the characters and things. So yeah, and the same applies for 10-2. I'm just not showing it to you right now because I'm just kind of showing one. 10-2 has its own issues, but it is still a pretty fantastic game, in my opinion, mechanically, despite its character and story flaws that are definitely there and significant. So yeah, pick it up on Steam or Green Man Gaming. I will link you to both in the description below if you want to give it a shot. I would say that it's very well worth your time if you're interested. It is a lot of content for a pretty cheap and cheerful price. Wait, why would you cast Firaga on those things? That's a bad idea. No, don't do that. Stop it. But as it stands, I think that you could definitely do a lot worse than to go for these, because there's a lot of RPG to be had here. And honestly, I'm just glad that we're seeing more and more JRPGs getting onto the PC platform, because I love JRPGs. I think they're awesome. And I would like to see as many of those as possible. And here's to hopefully getting, I know this is probably not going to happen, but here's to hopefully getting Final Fantasy 15 on PC at some point, because that would be amazing. I'd absolutely love that. Or, maybe in the meantime we could get something else, like Dissidia on PC. That'd be sweet. Or like that 2015 arcade version of Dissidia that's exclusive in Japan right now. That'd be sweet too. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked this video, then feel free to hit that like button. If you think I'm terrible at the game because I'm dying in this dungeon repeatedly, because this place is actually a little harder than I remember, to be honest. I probably shouldn't be here yet. There's a bunch of other stuff I need to do. I need to get some of those ultimate weapons powered up. Anyway, if you dislike the video, feel free to, well, hit the dislike button. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Even though it's massive overkill for this one enemy, I'm gonna go ahead and show you. Because Delta Attack is one of the more impressive overdrives. And I would just like to show you that they've even increased the particle effects and things in terms of quality for the HD version, and it looks quite nice. This one poor bomb is going to have no idea what hit it. And this will also show you that in the international version, the actual hits and hit counts and things are a little bit different. So this should hit, if I remember correctly, 3 times instead of the original 1. So you can just sit back and enjoy a massive death ball, as is standard for the more powerful Final Fantasy summons. Whee! The power of triangles. Illuminati confirmed. Etc. etc. There we go. Yeah. Oh, it hits 5 times? There we go. A little less powerful than I thought. Oh, 6 apparently. There we go. So yeah, it's significantly more powerful attack than it was in the original version. Although it did a lot less damage than I thought it would. Will you stop casting fire magic on the bombs? Damn. I should also point out that the PC version has a couple of extra features here when you hit escape. It has a couple of these here. It comes with a turbo function by pressing F1 that allows you to either speed up the game by 2 or 4 times so you can kind of quickly run through larger areas, which is nice. Supercharge, which makes it to where I think, I haven't used it, but I think it makes it to where you can, every time a character attacks, it'll automatically fill their overdrive gauge. I think. This will make it to where you can either set enemy encounter rate to its normal levels, set it to absolutely no encounters, or set it to extremely heavy encounters. So if you're like trying to farm for something, or you want to go through an area with no encounters at all, you can do that. You can hide the HUD for screenshots, and this basically makes your characters auto-attack everything using the basic attack in fights for kind of speedy run-throughs. None of these affect your achievements or anything, by the way. This is mostly just to make getting through certain areas or something like that a little quicker for you, which is kind of nice. And you also have these. You can max out your gil, which I actually used this just for fun to see if how it worked and if it affected your achievements and stuff, so I could say that in the video, and it does not. Also, I was tired of your Jimbo shit. And this gives, as far as I know, every character every skill. I haven't used either of these yet. And this apparently gives you 99 of all common items, which I'm guessing is like every potion, every kind of consumable and mix item and things like that, not including key items. So you can't use this to get your Albed primers, I'm guessing. But yeah, so those are a couple of extra things that you can do in the PC version that were not actually available in the original HD remakes for the other consoles, which is interesting. So yeah, I just wanted to put that in there because I forgot. There you go.